This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'll get started. We have a couple new people around the table, so I think we'll take a second before the pledge and just introduce ourselves and for the benefit here. Start over there, Barry.
Hey, I'm Barry Wilson. I'm the new mayor of Windsor for almost 2 weeks. I was the mayor pro tem.
There you go. Congrats.
I'm Liz Hyde, I'm the mayor pro tem in Eaton.
Paula Cochran, trustee from LaSalle.
John Mallow, board chair from London.
I'm Suzanne Millett, I'm executive director of NFRMPO.
I am Mike Duffy, the new mayor of Johnstown. I'll be a liaison, and Andrew Proctor will be my primary POC.
Mark Clark, mayor of Evans.
Bill Jenkins, new council member in Timnath.
Oh, super. And anybody online, board member?
Looks like Will first, but Will, can you hear us?
All right. Will Carspec is online, evidently offline right now, but so anyway, thank you all. We'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We were a little bit panicking going on. We didn't have a quorum until we had the Johnstown people join us. So thank you for saving us. Appreciate that. Welcome to the North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council. Let's start with public comment. Come on up. I think everybody seems to know you but me, so introduce yourself.
Oh, is that Steve? Yeah. Steve's well known.
Those are the,
Oh, those?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, my name is Steve Keys. At the present time, I'm on the Well County Mobility Committee as well. And I'm not representing the committee on what I'm.
I got you.
Okay. First of all, last time was last month, I asked about because the state of Colorado and the state of Wyoming was talking about having a route down 20, and I didn't get my answer if they still are talking about that or what they're going to do about it. And
You did not get an answer?
no, I didn't.
Okay, we'll do some research.
Okay. Second of all, I forgot to bring that. I brought some schedules from Nebraska. They have the route that like 2 places in Nebraska, and then one goes down to DIA, downtown Denver. And this year they were going to have one of the routes go to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and also later this year they were going to have possibly one that goes to Fort Collins down to Lovewood. And I don't remember how many were here when I showed it last month, but I don't know if you guys got to see the routing, and I just want to know what you thought about it. Because we need to have, besides Greeley needs a good bus system because we got a bad one, but also we need a regional, would help Well County, but Larimer County, but also to go down to like Boulder. Well, to get to Larimer, you can take the flex, but also on down 85, we need something to go into Brighton to connect to RTD. And so I thought of an idea that we could have like an RTA or an RTD to give people, because we need a good transportation up here, the northern area. I know on the west side it's a lot better than here, but we need to, as a northern area, to connect. And so that's why I thought maybe eventually an RTA or RTD, because we get a better chance of having a good system. And there's a lot of reasons to have other reasons to have a good bus system. Because we're growing. Activity. And so, and that's what I have to say, and I just hope that maybe the NPO could be advocating that we could have an RTA or RTD up here so we can have a better transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's start with taking care of the meeting agenda. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at it? Any questions, additions, deletions? I'll entertain a motion to accept it.
I move to accept the agenda.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Excellent. Approval of minutes. Same song. You had a chance to look at it. If you got any problems with it, issues, additions, subtractions, now's the time to say.
I move to approve the minutes.
Awesome. Second, please.
Second.
All right. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Nays?
Aye.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the air quality agenda. First, it's actually item number 3 under reports, Air Pollution Control Division. You'll find that as a written report, page 13 of the packet. And then we have the North Front Range Air Quality Program updates. You can follow along with Dina on page 15 of the packet. Dina, you're up.
Hi there, can you see me and hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, sounds good. I'm fighting a cold, so apologies, but I've got cough drops in my mouth and I will try really hard to not cough as I speak here.
That's why you don't want the video, is that right?
So
Go ahead.
April was a very busy month in terms of air quality initiatives that were going on around different agencies. So the Air Quality Commission met. Their discussions focused on greenhouse gas near-term actions and then revisions to their procedural rules. So those near-term actions relate to things that we're going to see before the commission on utilities, transportation, building, oil and gas, industry, agriculture, natural and working lands, and strategic growth. According to CO's director, Will Tour, we should expect to see before the commission what he calls clean miles policies, and then efforts accelerating a conversion to electric vehicle fleets, extending greenhouse gas reduction targets for existing large buildings, and establishing rules that enable some methane capture at landfills and coal mines. Regarding the Commission's procedural rules, good news, many of those concerns that the North Front Range MPO Council put in their letter to the Air Quality Control Commission last fall with the ozone hearing, many of those concerns, actually all of those concerns, are on the list for things to be considered as they go about revising their rules. And so those are things related to the changing of the rulemaking scope, alternative proposals that are put before the Air Quality Control Commission, how to better engage in the rulemaking process, and then for those who don't want to formally engage, responding to comments that are submitted. So all of those are really good things. So we'll continue to track the changes that are ongoing through that process, and we should see a draft of those revised rules here in May. Moving on, the RAC is moving forward in preparing their next ozone SIP, and that is the serious ozone SIP under the 2015 ozone standard. They held a modeling forum in late April, discussing the modeling protocol that they intend to use. So here's where we've been talking a bit about background ozone. There was a suggestion, we had shared a paper with them on options to refine background ozone as they move forward in the modeling process. I had a really positive conversation with Tom Moore today with the RAC, And while they can take steps to refine background ozone, it's questionable as to how they would input that into the next steps in modeling. So we're going to continue talking to them about that. And again, that background ozone it's just one more thing that affects ozone at the monitors for which the area really has no control over, and it makes it really hard to plan for attainment. The next ozone modeling forum is scheduled for later in July, but I'll continue working with RAC staff with questions and getting answers to those. Air Quality Awareness Week is May 6th through the 10th, and so please consider pushing out communication materials to your constituents. The RAC staff's got great materials. We can also get those from the Air Pollution Control Division if needed. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you to look for those materials, or we can try to help get those to you. The RAC staff also identified that they had 3 proposals that they had submitted to Colorado's Air Quality Enterprise seeking funding for ozone-related projects in the non-attainment area. So we're going to track the progress of those. And the RAC also identified legislation that they have either helped craft and or supporting. Kind of listed those in my report. Some of the legislation, there's a lot going on, and there's even more if you go beyond air quality, which I'm sure you guys are tracking. So it's overwhelming for me just looking at the air quality stuff, but I do want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, what's not in your report there's 2 bills that just dropped this week. As Senate Bill 24230 was introduced, creating new oil and gas production fees that are going to be used to expand transit service frequency, ridership, and fund passenger rail projects, including the Longmont rail line. So we're going to want to watch that one very closely. The other one that's not in my report, it was just introduced, is Senate Bill 24229. It limits air pollution emissions from oil and gas operations, but it's targeting ozone emission reductions. Excuse me. And notably, we should see, I think the Department of Public Health and Environment is planning as part of that to propose a lower NOx limits for disproportionately impacted communities in the ozone non-attainment area. And so that would include parts of Larimer and Weld counties. Excuse me. The rest we've kind of highlighted here, and I'm sure we can talk about later, but Senate Bill 214 is really talking about establishing an Office of Sustainability and kind of coordinating the state's efforts in seeking federal funding under the Inflation Reduction Act. Senate Bill 165 has this motor vehicle emission budget element that we want to track very closely because that directly affects what this council does. Senate Bill 32 extends the summer ozone transit grant program beyond 2024, so we're excited about that one. House Bill 1366 gives priority to local governments with climate action plans and seeking grant funding from Colorado state agencies. So that's one to watch as well. And then House Bill 1341 removes, and that's been signed into law, removes anti-idling preemptions, allowing local governments to be more stringent in addressing idling or anti-idling. Going beyond legislation, there is the Clean Fleet Enterprise and the Colorado Energy Office's Fleet Zero program. They've aligned a grant funding timeline. So they are accepting applications through June 21st. And that's for projects for new fleet vehicles, vehicle conversions, and clean fleet technology, more electric vehicle infrastructure, those kinds of things. I just want to highlight that eligible entities do include local governments, so you might want to consider pursuing funding under those under that grant funding opportunity if you are so inclined. And there's some links and there's an attachment that has kind of a summary that they put out on all the funding opportunities for you. And then there's a couple of things from EPA. There is definitely, they just recently announced an ozone workshop that's going to inform their next steps, EPA's next steps in reviewing and their ozone NAAQS, so potentially lowering it from the current 70 parts per billion to something lower. So that workshop is being held in May, and we'll report back on the status of that. And then they finally proposed to approve the new 2017 base emissions inventory that includes all of Weld County in the non-attainment area. So that is what's going on in terms of air quality. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Dina? Go ahead, Kristen. Take your
Yeah,
sip of
sorry we're
butter.
late. There was a lot of traffic, ironically. With the EPA considering lowering that, that number for the ozone, do we have any idea what that could get lowered to?
I think they had put out a previous range, so I can get that for you, but 70 is already hard for us, so anything below 70 is going to be harder. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just wondered, kind of like 70 is hard for us, and we're almost there with, but there's at least 3 or 4 places where we're not on the west sides of town. I wondered with the newer numbers, like if we had looked to see like how many more spots would likely not be in attainment. And then would that affect like other areas of Colorado? Like would we have other non-attainment areas in Colorado likely with those, as those numbers dip? Like, I mean, El Paso I've heard is always like on the margins.
And I think, if you don't mind, Dina, this is all speculation because we don't really know yet. But I have heard through some other conversations with some other folks that if it drops to like 65 parts per billion, it's going to be not just in Colorado, but a lot of the country is going to be coming non-attainment. So I think it will expand, and I think it'll probably pull in Ice Peak, and it will probably pull in the Four Corners area.
Oh.
I think it drops that low. So at least that's the data I've seen for so far.
Did you say, Dina, that the EPA takes input on that? Do they?
Yeah, they've got like a 3.5 day workshop. I signed up for it. I don't know how attentive I will be for 3.5 days.
Yeah, that's good, because I mean, it would be nice for them to understand, well, we've talked about how maybe the modeling needs to be a little bit more refined on where everything's coming from. So.
Yeah, and I think for our new members' benefits, Commissioner Stevens is our RAC representative for NFRMPO. And so Dina did have a conversation with RAC today about we've given them a paper on modeling, saying, with background ozone, the way we're doing it now has some issues. And here's a new way that we'd like you to explore. And they said, sure, we'll look at it. They put it in the RFP when they selected their contractor, and now they've taken it back out. And so Dina met with Tom Moore with the RAC today, and essentially he said, and maybe you can rephrase this, Dina, better than I can, but he said they were concerned about how would they use it with the rest of the modeling, because air quality modeling is like, there's 4 models that you use to get an air quality model. Mm-hmm. So they were concerned about how it would integrate with the other models, but so she's going to have some further conversation with them to see, because I think the paper that we sent to the RAC was saying, the one model that you're using now to calculate background ozone is saying we're about 50 parts per billion. We're really thinking we're probably higher than that, and the reason for finding that out is that what can we control and what can we not control, right? As far as what we actually can do. So, Dina, did I sort of butcher that, or was that the gist of it?
That was great.
Any other questions for Dina? All right, seeing none. Dana, your voice changed about 3 times during that presentation. You might want to think about going to bed, but thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, moving on to the MPO agenda, reports of the chair, that is me. We'll start off Finance Committee member appointment. As you know, Paul Rennemeyer is no, it doesn't sound good. He's no longer with us. He turned down, so he's no longer on the Finance Committee. Just bring everybody up to speed. We have 5 members. We'd like to have 5 members. So now we're down to 4. And if I look at the counties, you all kind of want to take into effect the counties. We have 3 from Weld County already, and we got Kristen from Larimer. So I'd love to have 1 more volunteer from Larimer County. Barry, you're a hybrid. We'll take you if we need
I
you.
am in Windsor, but I live in Larimer County.
Okay, that's good to know. So
It's a fun committee.
does that mean you're volunteering? Oh, there we go. Tricia, do you want to fight for it?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Barry. We'll put you
Well,
down.
and Bill is from Larimer too.
He's no, you're in all in.
You're all there? You want to fight? You want to fight for the position?
No.
Okay. Barry, you're the
You
man.
can tag me for something else.
Okay, well,
Down the road.
don't leave the room or you will be.
Yeah.
All right, good. Second is the executive director search update. Hopefully you all had a chance to look at Suzette's email of 425. Long and short of it is we narrowed the candidate field down to 3, and the executive committee interviewed all 3, and we decided you all need to meet all 3. And that's good news. They're all excellent candidates. Do me a favor, take a look at Suzette's email. Logistics is a nightmare, if you can imagine, with 3 candidates in one day. A lot of moving parts. If you have any questions, whatever, let Suzette or I know, and we'll try to answer them. We're going to stick with the date we picked out, which is the 16th.
Yes.
Too late to make any change on that. So we know some people aren't going to be there. We accept that. We know that going into it. It's just hard this time of year to coordinate everybody. But the good news, we got good candidates. Bad news is we just got to spend some time and pick the right one. So any questions on that?
I just took a bite, but I have a question.
Yeah, Kristen, go ahead and
Can
swallow.
we see, can we see resumes for those?
Yeah, I was
You'll
gonna
send
say
me
that.
Okay.
So the way I originally had set it up with our IT, we put it in a portal, but you have to have access to it. So I was gonna ask you all, if I put it in an email, if I put them in an email and say confidential, does that work for all of you?
Yeah.
Ours
Okay.
usually say private or deliberative.
I think ours says private too, but I think it's
Private.
Hashtag private.
You
hashtag
can put
private.
private and confidential.
Private, confidential, don't look, right, whatever.
I think staff should figure that out.
Okay. Yep, I will try to get those out as soon as I can, so you'll all have a chance to review them. But yeah, we got 3 good candidates, so
Yeah.
that's the exciting part.
Fantastic.
And is the hard date on that, was it the 16th of May or 16th of June?
Man, yeah. All right, the third bullet point on my section is prioritization process pilot program. I didn't exactly know what that was, so I'm gonna turn that over to Suzette to explain.
So, and Anna Rose is up at the podium, but there was an opportunity to go after some funding to look at how we prioritize our projects and our process. For those of you that have been with us, you know that about every 2 years, we go through this process of selecting projects with our federal funds. We also have some state funds in NMFRMPO. We were getting ready to start that process here before too long. But we have an opportunity to have, a consultant come in and say, let's look at the process, let's make sure the process is going the way it should be, making any, improvements that we could be doing. And I'm not reading your email very well, am I? Also, we want to make sure that we have the implementation is publicly accessible, it's a transparent process. And that the ranking and selections of projects for inclusion in the next transportation plan. So So that's the long and the short of it. We're asking $250,000 in this request. The executive committee did sign a letter of support because we were short on time and we didn't have enough time to get in front of the council. So the executive committee did sign it, and it has been submitted. So it's on its way, and hopefully we will be able to get some money out of that to look at our process.
The other thing is, it is 100% federal, so there was no local match requirement for it.
Okay.
Which is always nice. Yeah.
Well, we have moved into item number 6, which is the executive director report. Suzette?
Okay, as Dina was saying, the legislative report is long, and I've unfortunately been a little unplugged lately because I do lose a staff person, and so I've been sort of doing other things besides paying attention to the state legislature. So if any of you around this room know more about these, just chime in. But this is in your handouts packet. The first one is House Bill 1012. This is one on the Front Range Passenger Rail District efficiency. This one has had a lot of amendments that has come into this. The amendments that, this has also been sent to Governor Polis, but the amendments that affect us is, did you need a?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So what affects us is that the representatives from the NPO no longer have to be confirmed by the Senate, making it a little bit easier. And the other piece is that Weld County has been removed from the Front Range Passenger Rail District. So once this is signed, that means for us, Weld County is out of it. So I know we've had the conversation about, we have 2 representatives, and right now Johnny is the Weld County representative, so I think that might open the conversation again.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to reach out to some people and see if we can't get that changed. Obviously, we need another Larimer County person in there, so think about that for you in Larimer County. We'd like to be part of that, that'd be fine. I have not talked to Johnny. I don't think he's gonna fight us. He volunteered to give it up a long time anyway, so I suspect he'll be fine with that. So give it thought. Obviously, we have a voting process to go by. We have more than one candidate, so.
Were the bylaws such that we always had 2 representatives?
This was out of the legislation.
Oh, it was out of legislation?
Yeah, and so the legislation said that we got 2.
And it didn't say we had got 2 because we had 2 counties, it just said we planned on that 2.
But we did it in one county just because of geographic representation.
And so whoever is picked at this time would be filling out Johnny Olson's term to
Right.
2026, and then
Correct.
the other one would be the 2024
Right.
candidate.
Right.
Okay.
And Will is online, so I'm assuming, I don't know, Will, if you're going to be standing on, or did you have thoughts on that?
I think the agreement we kind of struck was it'd stay on till November, but I'd certainly like to stay on longer if possible. But I guess we can cross that bridge in November.
So there was an initial 2-year and then and a 4-year. So we really didn't select who the 2-year was.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, we thought it would be, Johnny would be the 2-year. And at the meeting, we sort of flipped it and said it would be, well,
But Will can stay on.
it's up to you guys.
Yeah,
It's up to you guys.
we hadn't considered Will leaving.
Mhm.
We're just thinking of Johnny and Will County, so
Okay.
that's what prompted the conversation.
Okay, so moving on with the legislation. So House Bill 1030, this is the railroad safety requirements. We've talked about this, about the length of trains, things like that coming through the communities. They can't block public crossings for more than 10 minutes. I think there has been some pushback from the rail community saying, look, we shorten the length of our trains, and that means you're gonna have more trains. They may be shorter, but there'll be more of them. Right now, that is in the transportation and energy discussion. It was referred. Then the next one is Senate Bill 32. This is the method to increase the use of transit. I think this one, right now, it's at the transportation and energy discussion, but this is the one that, as we've seen the fare free for the transit ozone season. This just continues that. It also has provided some youth fare free transit program, and then it's also some income tax credit for purchasing transit passes.
Yeah, my understanding with this one is that, now people might, there's not enough money or something, so you would either have to choose between the youth fare free or funding your ozone transit program. Because there's,
I don't know if there's choice. I thought it came down to, they got rid of one of the programs, but I don't.
I thought they kept both programs, but you like can only get dollars for one of those programs that you want to implement.
If you apply for the money, or how?
Yeah, I don't know how transit had done it before. I think you do apply if you want to use it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's only $7 million. So that doesn't, yeah.
Okay, then House Bill 1313. This is the one that I think we've had a lot of discussion about. This is the one where there's a transit-oriented component to this density. I think our only community that this affects is Fort Collins, where you would have to come up with some housing opportunity goals, and if you don't, then you are subject to leaving your HUTF funds, which are your highway user trust funds. My understanding is that portion has been removed from this bill, although I've heard also that there are a few people that want to try to put it back in. So I don't really know where that's at this point. You know?
No, I don't, but
I had heard that it was out, and then not only was that out, that it's not the injunction piece. I wanted to call it lawsuit piece, but I think it's
right.
very similar. That injunction piece has already been, also been, yeah, which is good. So, but I didn't hear about somebody putting back in, and yeah.
Yeah, I just heard no preemption on that one. But if we go back to the previous one, it started out with 7 million for the youth fare free program and 7 million for the zero fare, but it's going to be funded at 10 million total, and the youth fare is now gone.
Okay.
And it's a transfer of 10 million from MMOF to the zero fare.
Was that always where the money was coming from? It's not our MMOF, it's like that, I think it's CDOT's MMOF.
Okay, then House Bill 1304 is the minimum parking requirements, and this prohibits a county or municipality from enforcing minimum parking requirements for real properties within the NPO beginning on January 1, 2025. This is in the local government and housing discussion. I don't really know, but this prohibits all counties and municipalities in the NFRMPO from enforcing the minimum parking requirement. So that's just that one. Then we have 1366, and this is the Sustainable Local Government Community Planning. That's kind of a mouthful. Concerning sustainable local government community planning, this requires counties and municipalities to include a climate action element in their master plans. Requires CDOT to coordinate with NPOs to establish criteria that define growth corridors, and requires CDOT and NPOs to work with local governments to develop TDM plans in these growth corridors. And it adds additional requirements to CDOT's statewide plan. This is the one that the last time we talked about this, that to me is kind of silly to require the TDM plans in the way that they've been proposing. The TDM plans are by corridor, not by region, which is what we as the NPO would do. We would do it across the region and not by corridor. And they would not do it for a full corridor. They would only do it for the corridors that are outside of a census urban area. So if you take US 34, for example, the portion that's in Fort Collins TMA, which is Loveland, and then the Greeley urbanized area, there's only a few miles in that middle that are rural. That's the only portion we would be required to do a TDM plan.
And I've heard this has been turned, this is from April 22nd, so I don't know if this is still accurate, but it had been turned into just a study.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like it mostly went away.
Then support for the surface transportation infrastructure. This is Senate Bill 184. I think, as I understand it, the concern from the North Front Range was that some of the funding that would be coming out of our toll lanes could be taken off I-25 and put to other corridors. I think that part has been removed so that it is staying on wherever that money is taken, is staying on that corridor. So that's for us, the I-25. Then we have House Bill 1330, which is the air quality permitting. This is the modifications to the process to obtain permits for activities that impact air quality. And also the air quality improvements, the Senate Bill 165. And I know Dina touched on these, but I think I sent out to council yesterday, I think, or the day before, the Colorado Sun article about the grant agreement. And so the conversation was, and Dina touched on this, is that essentially what it's Senate Bill 230 and 229. These two combined are really an agreement between the oil and gas industry and the environmental groups that are saying, you know, we're going to hold off on legislation if we can get these two, if we pass these two. So some of these things may be coming off and not actually being moved forward. And I don't know which ones, but that's sort of that's what I think it said. And I don't know if anybody has any more information on that.
That one was in a hearing. I think it was on the floor today. It sounds like it might be imploding. I'm not 100%
Really,
sure.
which one? 229.
I think it was 229.
Yeah. So,
gas. That's
Yeah.
not good.
then there's a whole list of other bills that are also listed at the end that you can take a look at. And the only other one that I would say was recently introduced that I don't really know very much about, it doesn't impact transportation per se, but it's Senate Bill 24228. And that is talking about Tabor. From reading the summary of that, it sounds like Tabor refund has to happen, but the state has discretion over how and where they distribute that refund, and they're talking about how they would potentially redistribute it.
Is that additional $34 million that they have?
I don't know, they said they have like $2 billion in the Tabor fund, so they're getting, and so there's triggers in there too. If they have over a certain amount, here's what would happen. Anyway, so that is what I have as far as the legislative updates.
Any questions? Ms. Suzette? Seeing none, let's move on to the item number 7 is the TAC report. It's in the packet, page 23. That's a written report. Item number 8 is mobility. It's a written report in the handouts. Number 9 is finance report. It's on page 24 of the packet. That's a written report. Number 10, community advisory committee. Page 26 of the packet. That is also written. Number 11 is Q1 2024 tip modifications. That's page 27 in the packet. And last in the section is CDOT inactive report, page 28 of the packet. All right, let's move on to our one and only action item. I think this is a split duty between you and Becky.
Yes, it is.
Okay, it's the draft 2025 annual North Front Range budget and fiscal year 2024-2025 Unified Planning Work Program, otherwise known as UPWP fiscal year 2025. That is awful.
Sorry.
Take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to cover the budget piece first, and then Becky's going to talk about UPWP. So since we were short-staffed, I again did the budget for 2025. So I'm really, I have to apologize to all the real accountants about my abilities to actually do these stacks, complicated spreadsheets. But I did want to run through sort of how I did the budget, what's in it, so you all understand what's in there. So most of it's in the memo on page 29. So we prepared the budget on a calendar basis. The UPWP is on a federal fiscal year, but because we don't have a whole lot of variation between in that last 3 months, we're comfortable using that budget for the federal fiscal year as well. So we typically come to you for approval of this in May. And the reason we ask for approval of the budget along with the UPWP in May is because then we write up a scope of work and we send it down to CDOT, which then gives them enough time to get our contracts done by the end of September. So that's the timeline that we're on. So I'm gonna go through the budget pieces. So the first one is our Van Gogh program. So Van Gogh is our enterprise fund. That is the one, we have about 25 vans on the road right now. We've gotten a few more vans that are starting to operate as people are starting to come back into the office. So Van Gogh is an enterprise fund because there is no state or federal money that goes into that program. The funds that cover that program are the fare revenues, the sale of vehicles as they're aging out, and then also our Fort Collins exchange funds. And so what the Fort Collins exchange funds are is that because we operate Van Gogh, we're sort of a quasi-transit agency. So we report the miles that our van pool program runs, and then we turn around and get some dollars back from Federal Transit Administration for that operation of Van Gogh. That is because City of Fort Collins is the designated recipient of the Federal Transit Administration funds. It comes to them, and then through agreement with all the partners that are involved in that, Fort Collins takes some percentage off the top for administration, and then they give us sales tax dollars. And it's great for us, and I will tell you why, because if we took all of that Federal Transit Administration dollars, they're very specific about how we need to spend that money. So the bulk of the money we would get would be to purchase vehicles, which if you're a real transit agency, you need, right? Because buses are now $1 million. But you can't, I mean, we would get $500,000 in some years, and we cannot buy $500,000 worth of vans. It just didn't make sense. So that's why we did the exchange. So that's what funds the Van Gogh program, and that is also what we've used to help match some of the MMOF dollars that we've been doing, like the US 34 transit study, setting up the TMO, starting the mobility program. So that's the money we've been using for that as well. Okay, so the total budget for 2025 is $695,866. Our largest expenses are payroll, our fleet maintenance, and vehicle purchases. So we have a full-time person that administers the program. We have some accounting staff time, and then I'm the supervisor on the Van Gogh program. We put in $200,000 of that $695 for vehicles. That will buy us about 5 vehicles. We don't know that we will need that because we are just almost getting our last order of 10 from 2 years ago. So it has taken that long to get 10 vehicles. So, but we may be okay in that we don't need any more in this next year. Then moving on to the NPO. The NPO has sort of 3 areas. There's planning, mobility, and then the administrative side. So planning has 5 team members, which is Becky and the planners. She has 4 planners under her. And they're responsible for all of our federal and state requirements that pertain to the NPO. And so it's the regional transportation plan. It's the TIP. It's the UPWP. It's all of these, the performance measures. It's all of the stuff that we are required to do as an NPO. That's what the planning team does. Then we have the mobility team, and that's led by Corey, and he has two people that work with him as well. This was council's direction back in 2020 to set up a one-call, one-click center for people with disabilities and seniors, so they could connect with human service providers to get rides, and that has taken off, and it has been a very successful program. We're expanding that to also start covering some of the TDM items that the council's directed as well. So they also have some federal requirements as well, and it's the Human Services Coordinated Plan that team also develops. Then the administrative side covers the executive director, it covers our accounting staff, and it's things like rent and phones and insurances and things like that. So that's what is covered under that. So under the MPO budget, that's a total of $2.2 million. The largest expense is payroll at $1.2 million. Then rent is the next highest. We also have software licenses and consultants that are in that budget as well. It's very close to what the budget was in 2024. So we feel like that we're pretty much on track with that. And the revenues come from the Consolidated Planning Grant, which is federal money. that comes to us. It's planning PL funds and it's also some FTA funds combined together. We call it the Consolidated Planning Grant. It is some surface transportation block grant, which I'm trying to get away from. And then the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, we get $35,000 a year from them. And then we get the FTA 5310 funding, which is, some of that comes from the Fort Collins Exchange portion. Some of that comes from, for the Greeley area. And then we also have a rural 5310, so it's the areas outside the NPO for Larimer and Weld County that we do human service work. And then we also have a small grant from the Office of Information Management and then our congestion relief funds. So that's what covers the budget. I will tell you that we do have a couple of outstanding items that may come back to do a budget amendment. We did apply for a 5304 grant through CDOT back in July of last year. They tell us that they will actually make the awards in August of this year, but as of a month ago, they had not even convened a committee to review them. So we asked for $125,000 to work on the Link Elko Phase 2 project, which is the transit service on US 34. We also put in an application for SPR funds to help cover some of our ongoing software expenses, and I applied for $40,000. It was a hard one to do because they asked for how much do you need before the budget was done. So I was pretty conservative on that, but other years that may change. And then the application that you just heard about on the prioritization process pilot program for $250,000. So any and all of those will necessitate a budget amendment, which would go through the finance committee first and then come to all of you. So any questions on the budget? And I did provide a roll-up budget on page 31 so you can sort of see where the expenses are across the different areas of the NPO.
When you said we don't have to go into our STBG, is that the funds? Mm-hmm. That you don't want to go into that anymore. Were we looking at getting more funding from CDOT for the modeling and?
Yeah, so on average, we get we're short on just CPG funds by about 100,000. And so we were using our STBG funds to cover that. But we sort of fluctuate a little bit in what we do, and we still have an open STBG contract with them.
Okay.
And I think once we can get stabilized with how much SPR money we need from them, then we can probably shut that contract down and put that back in the pool for the projects.
Okay. Because how much money was that every year?
About 100,000.
Yeah, so it's 100,000 that we can use for, actual projects, which is nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't remember where we were with it.
So I don't any other budget questions. If not, I turn it over to Becky.
Yeah, let me just make a comment. So everybody knows we only have one resolution, but both the UPWP and for whatever reason, this is combined into one resolution.
Because it always is.
Always is. Becky's online, right?
Jim.
Oh, who does?
Jim Kelly, sounds like?
Yep. Jim, did you?
Yeah, hey, I just wanted to ask Suzette, how much different is this budget than last year's? What's the change, how percentage-wise or anything like that? Do you have that information available?
Yeah, we're about $100,000 less than last year.
Okay.
You good, Jim?
Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to hear what that was. I guess I could ask
Super.
why, but it's probably a long, complicated answer.
We appreciate that. All right, Becky, if you're online, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to briefly touch on the tasks that are being updated in the UPWP for FY 2025. I did discuss them at the meeting last month, but I did want to walk through briefly. There is one NPO task that is being updated, and that was adding deliverables for FY 2025. So that is task 5.3, transportation demand management. And then 3 tasks were added to Appendix B, which is our local agency tasks, 2 from Transport, and then 1 from Greeley, which had been in the previous UPWP and sort of slipped through the cracks, and we're adding it back in. So it is a new task to this UPWP, but not a new task in general to the region. But I did want to talk about a few of the larger tasks or the big tasks and deliverables that are being completed by NPO staff that are not necessarily new, but they're included for FY25. And these include our updated active transportation plan that Jerome did come to talk to the council about earlier this year, as well as our Freight Northern Colorado plan updates that will be occurring. The TMO work that was mentioned a little bit in the US 34 Coalition meeting prior to this meeting, as well as what was formerly known as Link NOCO, which has now been called renamed US 34 Transit Study. That project will be completed in December, so about halfway through the fiscal year. And then finally, one other big thing that we are working on is a Safe Routes to School, a regional policy or program for that. In addition to the national conference in October, will be held in Fort Collins. This is the first in-person conference that they are having since 2019. And we, as the NPO staff, see that as a co-sponsor of the event, but NPO staff is working with the local committee to come up with various different sessions as well as mobile workshops, and then we will be helping staffing as needed for that as well. So just wanted to provide those updates, and I'm happy to take any questions about the tasks as well.
Any questions for Becky?
Well, one other thing, I was being a little flippant about the resolution.
And my answer was kind of flippant too. So.
The reason why you combine the UPWP and the budget together is for audit purposes, because the auditors want to see that the budget and the UPWP are tied together.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, I will start the resolution. It's on page 36, we want to follow up. I resolve, this is resolution number 2024-08, for the North Front Range Transportation and Air Quality Planning Council approving the FY 2024-2025 Unified Planning and Work Program, UPWP task, and fiscal year 2025 budget. I will accept. Somebody accept that motion?
So moved.
All right. Second. Hearing the motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Excellent. Thanks, you all. All right. We have one discussion item. It's the 2024 North Front Range Summer Outreach. It can be located in the handout. Anna Rose, I'm sure, has it on the screen.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk to the council about not only what we are doing for our summer outreach for this upcoming summer, but kind of just talking about our outreach efforts in general for the NPO. So first, to talk about that, I wanted to mention the public involvement plan that we adopted in 2022. I know that there are some new members since then, so just a brief overview of that. The 2022 plan was developed prior to the update to our regional transportation plan, and it really guides the outreach activities for our agency, and so that's for transportation planning, air quality, the RIDE-NOCO mobility program, and for VANGO. So this plan outlined 4 strategies, essentially, or 4 goals for public engagement for the agency. The first is to meet people where they are. Second is to provide options for involvement and be adaptable. Third is be a good community partner. And then 4 is consistently evaluate what works and what doesn't. I did include the link to the full plan that's on our website if anyone wants to check that out. So, wanted to talk about what we are doing this summer. And so summer really started back in February with the first event that we did really for 2022 with the Transportation Projects Fair in Fort Collins. So a couple of these events we have already completed. We had a booth at the CSU Earth Day Festival, and then the rest of these are upcoming. So the ones that have the asterisk are ones that we plan on attending but haven't actually registered for yet. Either the registration isn't open or there's a couple that we're waitlisted for. And so what we do a lot is go to the community festivals. That's primarily what we have done in the past. We get a lot of really great conversation that comes out of those events. And so we attend the things like the Timid Safety Fair, Berthoud and Johnstown Days. There's an event that we're going to be doing in Loveland called Loveland Celebrate Trails Day. We also host or co-host stations for Bike to Work Day. Last year we had a station in 5 of our communities, which was exciting, and so we're hoping to be able to do that again this year. So that's Fort Collins, Loveland, Greeley, Windsor, and Evans. We attend the Greeley Stampede at one of their community booths. So it's just one day out of the 2-week event. Also, Eaton Days, LaSalle Day, Milliken Beef and Bean Day, Sevens Days, the Windsor Harvest Festival, Evans Heritage Day, and then Open Streets in Fort Collins. So there's a lot of different events that we have attended in the past that we anticipate attending this year as well. So what we talk about at these events are really what we're doing at the agency. And so we talk about our different plans and programs. So a lot of the things that you've heard about today already for Van Gogh, the active transportation plan that we're working on, Leaf NOCO, the Ride NOCO program, including the TDM work that they're doing. So we'll be focusing on some of those things, especially catering it towards the communities that are most impacted by those plans. So, along the US 34 corridor, really highlighting that. We also do outreach for air quality planning. So for the Simple Steps Better Air, the ozone season, we talk to people about that program and air quality and transportation planning in general. So at the event, we have a few different things that we have to try to help engage with people. I think one of the biggest things is really just educating people on what the North Front Range and Metropolitan Planning Organization is, because a lot of people surprisingly don't know. And so we talk about, transportation planning in general and at regional levels, and we have informational materials on all of our plans and programs. We also have information about the transit agencies and different service providers. One of the hot topics that we often hear about is airport transportation. So talking to people about different ways that they can get from the North Front Range down to Denver International. One of the ways that we have engaged people at these events is through transportation trivia. So we have a lot of different questions that we can ask people about safety, air quality, trails. We try to cater that towards the community that we're in. So asking questions about what trails are within your community. Same with transit. Like I said, general NPO information, and then mobility. So providing the information about Ride NOCO and all of the options that they have there. We also have giveaways at the event, and I do have a prop with me that I just wanted to kind of
It's not real, it's a prop.
Well, I don't have enough to give away to
Okay.
everybody. If you want any of the items that we have, that just means that you have to attend one of the events that we're at in your community. So if you do want to check out some of the informational materials that we have, we also have, we try to get giveaways that are more specific to the work that we're doing. So things like bike lights. We have for our active transportation plan this year, these little lights that you can clip on to like a zipper to keep you safe while you're walking at night. Clip it onto your dog's collar, do that too. Some of the items that we have are co-branded, so with Ride NOCO and NFRMPO materials. So we have the sunglasses, the totes that we have, and then NFRMPO has a lot of giveaways that they use for their travel trainings specifically. I don't even have all of that with us, but they have a lot of that. And then some of the air quality things as well. So feel free to look at those if you want. But just wanted to give an idea of what it is that we're giving out at these events and trying to make sure that the things that we're giving out are not just things that people are going to be throwing away, things that they're going to want to keep, and can help remind them of what we are, what we do, and hopefully help them engage more with the work that we do in the future.
Well done, Dan.
So we also want to help do outreach for local and statewide initiatives. And so what that looks like is some of our local initiatives are going to be things like the Fort Collins Strategic Trails Plan, the different safety action plans that are currently happening, and just when we're at these events, letting people know that these kinds of things are going on and just helping boost the engagement for those events. And then same with the state initiatives. So this year, CDOT is working on their strategic highway safety plan and their active transportation plan. So as different information comes out about those events, we will help promote any kinds of surveys or informational materials they have about that as well. And then also things like the regional things like Front Range Passenger Rail, where they have information and materials that we can give out, and then the RAP programs as well. So going into the summer and going into the different ones that we have events, there's a couple of different ways that we promote that we're going to be at these events, not exactly promoting the events themselves, but trying to encourage people who are going to be at those events to come and speak to us. So we have our social media posts about where we are this month and listing out the events. That's both the general NPO events and then some of the NFRMPO specific events that we do. We also have our online calendar that lists out all the events that we're at as well, including all of our meetings and everything. We are also continuously looking for different ways that we can engage with our community members. And so we've been talking with our TAC about different events that we can attend, so including open houses, things like potentially partnering with the city of Greeley for Greeley Friday Fest. We want to really make a concerted effort to engage with university students as well. I think that's one of the areas that we have kind of realized that we're lacking in is engaging with universities, and so trying to figure out different events that we can attend to do that as well. And we are always open to suggestions on different events that we can attend. And so just want to open it up for any questions. And the one picture of me, because I'm always the one behind the cameras at our events, much to the chagrin of my coworkers. The Earth Day. So this was the Great Western Trail opening event a couple weeks ago.
Nice day.
I applaud you for staying the whole time.
I've seen you there.
I do have a question. Those are a lot of events, and I applaud you as well for everything you do. How many people are there involved in this? How do you split it up? You're not at every one, are you?
Sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah.
No, so we have the 4 planning staff and then the 2 mobility staff, and we try to have at least two people at each event.
Okay.
And so that.
It splits up.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Brandon Rose?
I do.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just wondering, do you have any data on like how many people you touch through these events or how effective they are?
Yes, that's one of the things that we include in our annual report every year is the number of interactions we have at these events. I think sometimes it can be hard to measure the effectiveness at the time, but the more that we can engage with people, the more, that hopefully when we have things that we're trying to get specific input on, they'll know we exist and they'll recognize our name and say, oh, right, like, I know what that agency is, so yeah, I'll take that survey or I'll provide that feedback on it. there are things like currently we have the active transportation survey open. And so after the Fort Collins Transportation Projects Fair, there was a huge boost in people taking that survey. And so you can definitely tell that there are people, engaging with that content. So that can be, we don't always have surveys out like that, but that was it's a pretty easy way to be able to measure the people who were engaged.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anything else? Yes.
So my sister-in-law is a professor at CSU, so if you need to get connected that way, go ahead and make that introduction, and then make an introduction with our communications director at the high school, if you want to kind of get into that crowd as far as the education, kind of help you out there.
Yeah, thanks.
Is that the correct email I can reach you at?
Yes.
All right, perfect. I'll send out the introductory email for you.
Great.
Super. Anything else? And Rose, excellent as always. All right, let's move on to council reports, starting with the Transportation Commission. Honorable Jim Kelly is on the phone. Go ahead, Jim.
All right. Last month, our sessions, we're half-day Wednesday, half-day Thursday, were relatively light with regard to anything in northern Colorado. Most of it was moving money around, budget money around. And then we went on what I was called field trips, but that sounded too high schoolish. So I was told we were on road trips. So we went on road trips to Central 70, which if you haven't been down there east of I-25, it's an engineering marvel, where they took 70 and dropped 70 down and put land above it where there's schools and businesses. It's really an incredible engineering feat there. If you haven't been down there, you should. Instead of going down underneath on 70, you go up above and you'll see what's up there, soccer fields and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then we also went off to the Air and Spaceport, which is CDOT's air division, to see that and hear about the work that they do, granting money to the various small airports around the state, etc. And then we went to Burnham Yard. Burnham Yard is a 60 some odd acre parcel that CDOT owns just south of Colfax, in between Colfax 6th and I-25. That was started in the late 1800s. It's a rail yard that is enormous, and we own it, and they're really trying to figure out what to do with it at this point. We were thinking that rail would go through, or they were thinking years ago, that maybe there would be railroad yards there that are modern, etc., and that's probably not going to happen. So we'll see what goes with it, but it's probably going to be financed through another part of Colorado state government and moved out of CDOT sometime. It is basically like a giant railroad Jiffy Lube. These enormous buildings that we own and a lot of prime real estate there. So that's really my summary. We didn't have a lot of significant things that are related to northern Colorado happen last time around. Unfortunately, our next meeting is going to be the same day that we're interviews for Suzette's position are going to happen. So I'll be down in Denver at that point. But, yeah, that's my report. Anybody questions?
Any questions for Jim? Jim,
All right,
thank you
thanks.
so much.
All right, good to see y'all.
All right. Thank you. Next is the visitors becoming commonplace. Kelsey, Region 4 update. You're here a lot.
Yeah, so, thank you so much. Tonight, I'm gonna start out with a really common saying: April showers bring May flowers. But what they also do in Colorado is they bring a lot of inclement weather. And I just want to remind folks to be safe and be diligent when you're driving, because things can change in an instant. Additionally, on that safety note, it is the time of year when people are getting together, they're recreating outside, they're going to family barbecues and all the things, and we're also seeing an increase in drinking and driving instances, or people under the influence of driving. Unfortunately, CSP, they issued 4,120 citations for impaired driving last year in 2023, and the top 5 counties with the largest number of impaired driving arrests were El Paso, Adams, Jefferson, and unfortunately, Larimer and Weld counties were 4 and 5. So I just want to bring that to all of your attention. We have taxis, we have Ubers, we have phone a friend. There's a lot of resources out there, so just remind your loved ones and be diligent for folks who are unfortunately making that terrible decision to drive under the influence. May is also Motorcycle Safety Month. I think that's the title, but it's about motorcycle safety. On April 4th, Senate Bill 24079 was passed into law, and that allows lane filtering with motorcycles. We've seen this in other states. I've lived in California for a little bit of time for school. They do it there. But basically what this means, and it takes effect on August 7th, but what it means is that motorcyclists, they can pass or overtake other vehicles if other vehicles are stopped, such as waiting at a traffic light. The lanes are used to ride between cars and wide enough for safe vehicle passing. The motorcycle, when passing, does not exceed 15 miles per hour. And then also if stopped vehicles begin to move, then they have to cease to pass. So I wanted you all to be aware of this change, because it will take effect here soon, and it's going to throw some people off. Motorcyclists are at an increased risk of fatalities or injuries just due to how difficult they are to spot. And we do have a thing called distracted driving with these little phones in our hands and other things. So just please keep in mind that we're going to start seeing a lot of motorcyclists on the roads as well. On that note, I'll end it with CDOT will be completing a report analyzing kind of the before and the after of crash incidences. So they're going to do that comparative analysis. But that's not going to start, I don't think, until 2027. So we're going to have a couple years of collecting and sorting through that data, but we'll keep you guys updated when we have a better picture of what this law might do to the roads. But that's all I have for CDOT tonight, but if anyone has any other questions, I can do my best to answer them.
Yeah, quick question, and I don't know if you can answer this, but your numbers on the impaired driving citations, obviously Larimer and Weld concerns us in the room. Was that per capita numbers?
I'm not sure on that. I got that from CSP, so okay. I can look into that.
I just kind of wondered if you have more population, you might have more incidents. I don't know where Larimer really fits in that.
I would lean to say that's probably what it's in record.
Okay.
Having a university too probably is.
Yeah.
I mean, no, yeah, I mean, I think that might contribute to it.
Any other questions for Joseph? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next we have the US 34 Coalition. Which representative from Windsor would like to?
I'll do that as the chair. Yep. Many of you were there earlier today. We had 2 major things in our agenda. The first was a presentation from HDR with the Link NOCO Phase 1. That is basically the bus service from Loveland to Greeley and back. And so they went over what their possible routes were as they narrowed down their study. And it seems like they're very open to hear from people about what the routes should be and what the stops should be. It is more of a premium service, which means more riders and fewer stops. Been learning kind of from the routes that we had in the past where there were too many stops and just took too long. The good thing about that, there's a lot of rural area in the middle. So most of the stops will be within the 2 cities. And then I guess that's all I have for that, other than there is going to be an online open house coming up in a few weeks. And the second thing we discussed was our TM board has been formed. And for those of us on that board, we're going to be meeting on this same day before the US 34 coalition. It's going to meet, we're going to start meeting at 4:15 to 4:45. And that'll cut the US 34 coalition from an hour to 45 minutes. They'll meet from 4:45 to 5:30. And then obviously with this meeting starting at 6. The name is going to be Go No Code 34. Coming up, and they want a new executive director. We'll start in the September-October timeframe, so they'll eventually start recruiting for that position. And as the TMO board, we'll start working on logos and websites and everything that goes along with it.
And gifts with logos on it.
Yeah, we need some swag for sure. So that's all I had today.
Excellent. Thank you, Barry. Kristen Stevens, Regional Air Quality Council.
Yes, so the Regional Air Quality Council met on, I have 5/5, but it must have been 4/5, huh? So met in early April, we're meeting tomorrow again. But we had presentations from the Denver's Love My Air program. They talked about some of the programming they do. They do programming in 35 Denver public schools. They are also adding higher quality monitors to their portfolio. So it was kind of interesting to see some of the work they're doing. They're not tied in with the RAC, but they're doing work that helps with some of the ozone problems that the RAC is trying to solve. We had a legislative update. It was not so different than the legislative update here. They were pretty excited because they had been the ones who were pushing the anti-idling bill. So that will allow communities to have stricter anti-idling programs than what's at the state. And so they were pretty excited because that has been fairly successful in moving through the legislature. We had a presentation from Simple Steps Better Air. So that's the sort of PR program that comes from the RAC of reducing ozone. They added more bilingual resources, and they did a buy-in with Telemundo, so that's pretty exciting. They're going to be running ads during the Olympics, so that's good, and they're buying ads on RTD buses. They're also looking at a program called Engines Off at Schools, as people pick up their kids as an idling, waiting on your kids, and then the kids are breathing all that exhaust, like it's not good. So that's probably a good program to tackle. And then they actually will have a grant for food trucks. So food trucks, same deal, where they have to run these generators. So some battery, a grant program where food trucks can get a battery instead of running that generator the whole time that they're serving food. So some great programming that's happening, and I'll see what happens tomorrow.
Great. Why don't you keep the floor and do the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise?
I will admit that I did not attend that meeting this month. I had a conflicting meeting. But I know that they did discuss, they're continuing to discuss the allocation of those funds. So, I don't think that the date's been chosen necessarily, but, there again, we'll be meeting later this month, so we'll get that information. I think the date will be this fall, where there'll be some funding opportunities, so stay tuned for that. And then they are developing a fiscal management policy for some of the funds. So so there's some transparency around how the funds go out. So I think that's about it.
Excellent. Any other questions on either report for Kristen? All right. Let's move on to the Front Range Passenger Rail District. I know Will is online, and I know Johnny isn't. So Will, you're up.
Thank you. So we kind of just recapped some workshops we did and the polling data off of that, which was very positive. So this meeting, we were actually supposed to kind of drill in a little bit more into the polling data, as well as go over some stuff from a planning committee meeting I was in. One of the things in the planning committee was the process and directions for secondary stops, which would affect Wellington and Berthoud. And some other areas too in the Denver region. Anyway, the actual meeting kind of just focused on one particular topic. There was a bunch of resolutions, but it came down to the polling results we received were very positive. However, the governor's office felt like they were not detailed enough and might be overly simple. So they're going out for a new round of more detailed polling, kind of stress test this idea and to see if those results really were 70% approval like the previous poll was. The controversy in all this was that we're cleared for a tax to put on the ballot anywhere from 3 cents on the dollar to 5 cents. I'm sorry, 3 cents on $10 to 5 cents on $10. And the governor's office is only going to be looking at the 3 cents on a $10 purchase right now, so 0.003. And there was only a handful of us, well, only 3 of us that kind of wish we were also looking at the 0.005 data. So one would be an entry level kind of rail service or just the basics. The nickel on a $10 purchase would actually get us a lot farther in getting all the way to Fort Collins and just making sure everything would be safe so we don't have to go back to the ballot again. So that was the conversation, and there was a vote, and it ended up turning into that we'll only be looking at the 0.003 number right now. And that is it. Open for any questions you have.
Thank you, Will. Any questions for Will? Go ahead, Chris.
Is it statistically valid kind of surveying that you're doing?
This new one will be, I believe. The other one was I'd have to get back to you, but I believe the other one was just based off of phone calls. But I guess that could be statistically valid. I have a feeling the one the governor's office is now is going to be statistically valid, but I'd have to get back to you.
Okay, no, I was just curious. I would imagine that's the only way to go, but just curious if there was any opportunities for people to weigh in on that. Like, sometimes people will run a statistically valid poll and then run sort of an online just information, poll that gathers information.
Yeah, you know what, Kristen, I almost think that the first one actually itself was statistically valid, but again, I'd have to look through it. That was part of the workshop, and I only caught the tail end of the workshop, but I have all the info on it.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
So, like another example of something that the workshop had, or the first survey had on it that might have been kind of confused, that it said the I-25 corridor when it should have said the 287 corridor or the BNSF alignment. So they were worried that people that were voting in favor or saying positive results might have been someone in Weld County thinking this would be on I-25 when it wouldn't be anywhere close to that. So I think they're kind of tightening up that survey to make it a little more precise.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Looks like Commissioner Kelly has a question too.
Yeah, hey, Will, has there been any more discussion about the combination of, front range passenger rail and RTD? Or has there been any more discussion related to that going around?
They more or less resolved. So there was a weird issue with RTD actually running the alignment up to Fort Collins, and that was since been removed. So yeah, that kind of confusion of why is RTD now operating this, but it'd be outside their district. So they clarified that, and that's now removed. So it doesn't mention RTD in the Northward Range at all, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, there was a proposal that RTD would be involved in the creation, or it would be combined with you guys with the front range passenger rail to somehow manage the.
Yeah. Well, there's still some joint powers in the RTD's district with how the front range passenger rail operates within RTD, and they have some joint powers over that operation. But and I guess that does have an effect on everyone outside of RTD, but the RTD board has no effect outside of their own district, if that makes sense.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions for Will? All right, before I turn it over to Mark Clark for his host member report, I just want to say thank you, Mark, for hosting us. Excellent barbecue. The cucumber juice was a hit. That sounds a lot like what I used to drink in high school. But I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we could have a little something.
Well, I was going to say. Okay, take it away.
All right, thank you all for coming out to Evans this evening. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the food. Yes, cucumber water is definitely up top right there. I'm excited to say we've got a lot going on in Evans this year. If you go down the 23rd Avenue, you'll see a nice big Starbucks that's got their signs up and everything. They're getting ready to open in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited to see them here in our community. We also have a lot of development that's working through staff right now. Hopefully we'll have some movement soon on the 85 corridor there with some stuff going on. We know we have some other development that's being looked at on 23rd Avenue as well as 37th Street. We're also excited this year that we're going to start going to widen 37th Street from 204, so that's going to start happening. We started our budget retreats. We had one on Tuesday. We're going to start the budget process a little early. Next year, we're looking to do 3 large road projects around our community and spend about $6+ million to do some really large projects there. We are looking at going for a mill levy increase. I'm not sure if all of you are aware that we probably have the lowest mill levy around. We are at 3.536 mills. So if you break that down, if you take an average home about $400,000 valuation, you're getting about $9.70 of your money is going to city services. So we're looking to go out for a November vote to increase our mill levies up to about 15 mills to kind of match our fire district and everything. And we're hopefully going to put a committee together and hopefully we'll get that passed. We're looking at designs right now for a new police station. Right now what we're thinking about is hopefully going and maybe making a campus bill on where our community complex is, our city hall. We're looking at the area right now and maybe a couple of potential purchases around that area to give us a good building. We need about 35,000 square feet to house about 61 officers because we're growing like crazy. But I'm really excited to see what's going on. Doesn't look like much is going on, but hopefully by the end of this year, through the summer and the end of next year and beginning of next year, you're going to start seeing a lot of movement in Evans. So we're really excited.
Thank you. What's going on?
Yes.
One last thing before we adjourn. Suzette tells me we need to have a picture taken with board members.
I think we're gonna hold off, right, Anna Rose? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cancel that. With that, we are adjourned.
Wait, I have one more.
No.
Really quick. I was remiss, and we have a new NPO staff member that I wanted to introduce, and I forgot to do that at the beginning. His name is Mark Northrup.
Well, that's who that is.
That's who that is.
Welcome.
So Mark is a new planner with the NPO. He comes to us most lately from Hawaii. But prior to that, he spent a lot of time in Colorado. He has previously worked for Dr. Cog and also Pikes Peak Council of Government. So he actually knows what an NPO is. We're so excited. So just welcome, Mark.
Welcome, Mark. Good to see you. All right. Anything else, Suzette? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Welcome anytime. We do. We rotate it.
They go through it.